Sit! Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dodson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dodson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
How's it going?
And we're talking buys.
Bye,
in sync.
Bye.
Look at that. Look how in sync we are. Look at this. I started saying in sync, he started singing the words. It's like karaoke night now here in the Dynasty Nerds studio. So, yeah, we're buys. We're back in person, which is great because we were just talking before the show. Like, man, it's hard to, summers just work out. Like, we do way more remote shows than normal. Yeah. In season, we see each other every week. It's kind of mandatory. But, yeah, here we are in person.
Here we are.
Somebody smells bad, but it ain't me.
Is it me?
I don't know.
It's always me.
I just made it up. But
all right. I was going to say, geez.
I'm glad you're questioning yourself. Start breathing in my hand. So we're back. We're talking buys, quarterbacks, and tight ends. We've already done receivers. We've always already done running backs as well. Mm-hmm. Good funner summer shows. Because what do you do in the summer?
Funner summer.
You got to trade on the funner summers. Funner's not a word. Anything's a word if you say it. Come on. It's all about consistability. You know what I'm saying?
Bingo.
So quarterbacks, tight ends, obviously we're going to talk from a quarterback, tight end premium standpoint.
Correct.
But the tight ends, I think, they obviously fill into any kind of format that you play in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to all the old school people still fight. Shout out to all the old school people that still play with kickers and defenses.
Shout out.
My home league, I got rid of them like 5 or 6 years ago.
Sure.
Last year, they tried to
re-implement
kickers and defenses. I was like, you sons of guns.
Did you get? Did they vote on it?
We won the vote 6-4.
Oh,
I have a feeling they're going to keep pushing until they convert a couple more people and bring them back. I was like, guys, fantasy's already random enough. We do not need to add more of this. If we want to add another flex spot, cool. That would be great.
Yeah.
It's already only a 10-man league with shallowish rosters. Like, let's add another flex spot. Let's deepen the bench. Anything but kickers and
anything but kickers and defenses. In our 22-year-old original Dynasty League, it took us 5 years to get completely abolish it. Because I think if you're in any Dynasty League, all Dynasty Leagues should be run like a democracy, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody gets a vote. Anybody can propose any rule at any time, and you vote. Majority wins. And you can make it where it's either 7-5, or you can make 75%.
You have a vast majority on some of them. Yeah.
Some rules are like, hey, it's like if you're going to switch to Superflex, 75% of people should probably
major point changes or format changes or things like that.
But we tried to get rid of kickers and defenses.
Still one league, still kicking with it.
One league is still kicking with it. Originally, we got it down to, it took 2 years to get rid of just kickers.
Right.
They're not defenses. And then it took another 3 years of voting to get rid of defenses. It always got closer and closer.
That was our original league.
Yeah,
but there's still one league we can't get rid of either.
Can't get rid of them.
No.
We can't get the votes.
It's the most old school league.
Yeah. Is it standard scoring?
No, it's not.
It's PPR.
We got
touchdown only scoring.
we got them to adopt another flex spot in that league.
Oh,
which was weird. I thought that was going to be a precursor to getting rid of some things.
Sure,
but it wasn't.
It wasn't. It was just we'll just add more.
Yeah,
they refused. That is my second oldest.
It is
Dynasty League. Somebody who's in the original Dynasty League liked it so much early on because that league's at least 15, 16 years old.
The second oldest one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
It's really old. Yeah. And one of the original founders liked it so much, and he was somebody he was friends with us, but didn't hang out with any of our other friends. And he had a group of friends. He's like, dude, you guys want to start this Dynasty League? And he asked us to
of course,
the
answer
as
yeah.
well.
I mean, so of course.
It is, man. You just got to give people a taste of Dynasty, and they don't go back. They don't go back. It's like that one time when you're a young person and you finally get to get intimate. There's no turning off that switch. And you'll have an outlier of one person saying that wasn't good.
I mean, I haven't yet, so yeah.
So far, so good.
Still playing. Still playing. Did you play today? Dynasty?
I
did.
Yeah. No, I for sure check my waiver wire. I guess that counts, right?
Yeah, I'm on there every day.
Not waiver wire as much for me. Just most of mine are so deep.
I don't look at the waiver wire ever.
Yeah.
Because every time I do, it's a waste of time, and I only have so much time left to live. Right. So look at it I'd
rather fire out a couple trades or something.
Which again, going back to
sometimes there is some news about a young player that was an undrafted free agent, and you go out and you check your waiver wire. So I did that today.
Oh, yes. When that like OTA stuff comes out, I look for waiver wire then. But I don't just casually jump on a waiver like, oh, who's sitting out there?
Of course not. That's ridiculous.
And that is Dynasty to its truest form for everybody that's listening. Our leagues are always 30-man rosters, 2-year taxi rights, unlimited taxi spots for those rights so you can trade for them. So like the whole goal is you don't want anybody to be on the waiver wire except for like some OTA undrafted guy, because that's how you make sure people have to trade.
That's right.
Trade's fun. I just made a big trade on Monday. I told Garret about it. Traded
it's a great deal.
Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave in a third, for Drake London in a fourth.
Yeah, that's a good trade.
Thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brandon Ayuk is questionable, right? I mean, he's not even going to start the season. It sounds like
never even been a wide receiver one.
And
there's Chris Olave.
And Olave is very injury prone.
I like him. But,
so I'm with you there. I think that's a good move.
That's why I said it out loud,
because I knew the answer was yes.
Kind of just like bragging a little bit out here. No, big fan. So we are talking quarterbacks and tight ends. You want to do? Can I do either one first?
Sure, why not?
Okay, we can mix it up. We don't have to go in any order, right? Like
feeling froggy.
I can go tight end. You can go quarterback.
Sure, we can do whatever you want.
Pick a defensive tackle, whatever you want.
I mean, whatever we want.
I mean, I might drop Leonard Fournette. I meant to. Now Leonard Fournette's not playing anymore. Who could be my next running back to slide into the tight end?
Has he officially retired?
I don't think so.
All right, we'll hear some news on Leonard Fournette.
Playoff
in the next year or two.
He'll transform his body. We'll hear about it.
Best shape of his life.
Best shape of his life. Here we go.
So, for tight ends, I was really like, it's funny because like I've had a hard time lately with sells because
I had a really hard time at quarterback. I was good at tight end, but quarterback had a hard time.
Tight end wasn't difficult, but like tight end, like running some of the running backs, the receivers, like because I really do feel good with the ADP right now. Like I feel like there's a good pull. Now, obviously, we use Dynasty Nerds ADP. Some people that are like,
so we influence it slightly.
Yeah, and that's fine. And it's also like people that really pay attention because I don't know. I guess everybody does if you're doing ADP. But for the tight ends, like. I like. There's a lot of buys I did. Like I thought about going like Pat Freiermuth. I think is in a really good opportunity. Obviously, if you want to go, you go. Evan Engram is kind of like an obvious buy there. David Njoku, I thought like on his points per game average in a new quarterback situation is a good value. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, if I'm buying tight end, I can either go buy tight end if I'm rebuilding any slot or a contender. And I went the contender route.
Okay.
So I went George Kittle. For my dynasty buy.
Kittle.
Yeah.
We were talking about him a little bit on, was it a Nerd Herd show or a regular show? I don't remember.
Dude, every time we have to do one of these shows, we have to talk to people, I was like, okay, I can't, like, for the quarterback sells, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it'd be CJ Stroud. But we've done that
a million times.
So I had to pick somebody else. Like, it's just, I'm being redundant, you know?
But no, we were mentioning him like, oh, yeah, he would be good.
Yeah, he's going to be sweet. So
tell us why, Rich.
So George Kittle is, when you look at George Kittle, everybody gets scared of the players that are 30 years of age or older. So there usually tends to be a little bit of a dip there. Now, with George Kittle, there's not a massive dip. I got his ADP here in my notes. I'll get to it. But he's 31 years old, but he's still an elite tight end option, right? In a crowded field, which we always say for a tight end to be elite, you need to be the first or second option. And Kittle still finds a way to be the first or second option in this offense with a ton of options, right? When you have Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, you draft Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings has really stepped up into a solid.
Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk, forget about that guy as well. It's very easy. He doesn't play on the field. So, Kittle last year finished as tight end 3 overall in PPR. 72 catches, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns. He missed 2 games as well with a hamstring. He still managed to finish that high. So what I love about Kittle is, like I mentioned, his target share. He has 18.1% target share. He's 4th amongst all tight ends there. He averages 2.2 yards per route. In San Francisco, they had that high-powered offense, right? This is an offense that averages just about 28 points per game. It's 6th in NFL. I love the Kyle Shanahan offense. And over 5 seasons, Kittle averages 70 catches for 960 yards and 6 touchdowns. So when I look at George Kittle and the fact that he is 30 years old, he just signed that massive extension. Right, he just signed a 4-year deal for 70. What's his deal? 4 years, $76.4 million extension, $35 million guaranteed. So you get 2 years, and I love Kittle as a contender buy right now because when you're looking at that pick 11, like that 11, 12, 10, 9 range, you're really looking at Colston, Loveland, Tyler Warren range, definitely in tight end premium. And you can go that route and let those players develop, which, Colston's coming off the injury from last year. He hasn't even practiced yet in OTAs. Right. And obviously a ton of options to go around there. Mm-hmm. Tyler Warren, a little bit more ready, really uncertain about the quarterback situation. We don't know. And when we talk about all the time on the show, or at least I do, when you're in that contender window, you really got a carpe diem. It's just a high-powered offense that tends to score consistently. Instead of getting one of those game on to some of those young rookies, you get somebody come in and not just be the guy, like an elite tight end. We're talking about a top 3 tight end year in, year out. When you look at his history over the last couple of years, this is somebody who's been tight end, I think going back to 2018, he was a tight end 6 once. Besides that, he was a top 3 2. He was 4th once since 2018. Last year on a points per game basis, George Kittle was the number 1 overall tight end on a points per game basis. It wasn't Brock Bowers, actually. So going to the system with Kyle Shanahan, you have a quarterback in Brock Purdy, who we all love, right? 4,280 yards last year, 31 touchdowns, 8th in the NFL. And he always likes to lock in Kittle. Kittle saw a 22% first read target share with Brock Purdy, second amongst all tight ends out there in San Francisco. So with Kittle's ability to block and his target share and his first look, like, he's always on the field, which is what we love. So right now he's currently tight end 6 per our ADP because there's value. It's going to be that age dip. He's 67th overall, which I feel is a steal for top 3 production to get that edge over your league mates. So instead of leaning towards maybe you're not even going Loveland or Warren, but somebody on those, right? Caleb Johnson. Kittle is somebody who can actually guarantee, if he stays healthy, make a difference in your chance to win a championship.
Yep.
This year in 2025 alone, he's got an awesome schedule. He plays the Cardinals, the Rams, which are good matchups right now, accordingly to tight end. For the tight end, he just lost Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk, like Matt mentioned, isn't going to start the season. Juwan Jennings is nice. We don't know. We have Ricky Pearsall. You got Christian McCaffrey. But history is going to show us the way that Brock Purdy likes to look Kittle's way week in and week out. Tells me, again, that we're going to have a top 6 or a top 4 on a PPR per game basis tight end on our hands. Yeah, his PPR finishes in 2018, since 2018. Tight end 3, tight end 2, tight end 3, tight end 4, tight end 2, tight end 6, and then tight end 1 last year.
I mean, with George Kittle, I think the thing that excites me is the thing that you said there at the end. When we look at what was his best season, his best season was year 2, I believe, where he was just ridiculous, just crushing. He was 15, 16, 17 points a game. It was nuts. But ever since then, there's always been somebody else that's been the number 1. And he's just kind of been content being the number 2 or at times even the number 3 option in the offense. We're going to finally get to see him likely as the number 1 option. Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall might have something to say about that. But for my money, I think the guy that will likely get most of the targets as far as like the first looks, the first reads, things like that, I think it's going to be George Kittle. And if he can get that much volume and stay healthy, because that's been the other thing for him is he gets like these little dings here and there, you know, never anything big. He never misses like crazy amounts of time, but games here and there. But if he can play, 15 or more games this year, it would just be hard for me to imagine him not being a top 3 guy.
And last year, I think he played 14 games. I think he's missed about 10 games since 2018. Okay. So it does pop up here and there, the injuries. And anytime somebody gets older, you get something to be concerned about. But we also have seen historically, Matt, like the tight end position is the one position that can easily play into their mid-30s. Because their game's not predicated on speed.
I was going to say, they can lose a step and still be functional. And he knows how to get open. And he takes care of his body as well. So, I mean, even though he does get dinged up, I think that's why he's able to come back and return so quickly because, he does the tight end or whatever that is, all that kind of stuff in the offseason. So, yeah, I think he's a nice candidate. I think I agree with you that he is going to be the number 1 or number 2. I mean, let's not completely forget about Christian McCaffrey here. I think he's going to be garnishing some looks as well. It sounds like he's healthy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, fingers crossed that stays that way. And then it is probably Juwan Jennings first that I'm worried about.
At least early on, yeah, I would say so too.
Until Pearsall gets his kind of legs underneath him a little bit in this offense. But by then it might be like this big old, if Brandon Ayuk is coming back as well, then that's when I start worrying a little bit because we get back to those times when Kittle was kind of this week in and week out roller coasters. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about is when everything comes together and Brandon Ayuk's there and Pearsall is kind of hitting the ground running, what are we going to see out of him then? So that's, I mean, who knows? It's a long season, and by then it could be a whole different situation where, one or two of these other guys are injured and Kittle's still sitting on top of the whole pile.
The good news for him is even in those scenarios where we've seen it be packed before, his lowest was, what'd you say, it was 6th that he was?
Last year, 2023 was 6.
Yeah,
on a points per game basis.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I think he's always been good on a points per game basis. Yeah. It's when he's lower down the pecking order, there can be more dud games and more boom games. So that's, it is what it is with Kittle. I do feel like he's a really solid guy, though, to go out and buy if you're a contender.
I think Debo leaving's massive for George Kittle because they both can dominate the middle. Where's Debo really excel? Quick cross routes around the middle, manufacture touches can now go to George Kittle. And listen, I like Juwan Jennings a ton. He really stepped up and showed us he can be a wide receiver too. But he's a very solid receiver. Really benefits the system, right? Like a Kyle Shanahan receiver is something you really want to be a part of, or any kind of weapon in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I'm actually, Juwan Jennings doesn't worry me as much. I feel pretty confident about Kittle over Jennings.
So do I. No, yeah.
And I know you mentioned Ricky Pearsall, getting his feet wet. I actually feel pretty good about Ricky Pearsall in this offense. I think there's a reason they took him in the first round. They really saw a good scheme fit. Because remember, sometimes Ricky Pearsall in the first. That tells me that, Shanahan and Lynch really feel like that's a perfect fit for their offense. And Ricky Pearsall being such a savvy route runner and coming in as a senior and having a lot of reps under his belt, I think he can come in week 1 and kind of benefit. And with the news already, some hint, it's been constant hints of the Brandon Ayuk possible being traded. Mm-hmm. I think Ricky Pearsall can kind of escalate that. And I think there's a good chance we'll see Ayuk traded before the trade deadline. And Pearsall does do that.
Are those trade winds still blowing around?
I read something, I think 2 weeks ago about it, that the 49ers were still trying to look out. But I also heard something Brandon Ayuk wasn't happy about something. You don't know. Again, it's hard to trust anything in the media.
It really is, because I don't know how you even pull off a trade when a guy can't pass a physical. So that's going to be step one, and he's going to start the year on pup. So if there is a trade, it's going to be in a condensed window. He's got to come back, prove he's healthy, prove he's unhappy, and then get the heck out of Dodge. You know what I mean? In that kind of small window. When are the trades allowed to? They moved the trade deadline back. Is it week 10 or week 11 or something?
Yeah, they moved it back a couple weeks, but
it was 8, and then I think they moved it back to 10 or something like that. So there is a really short window where he could get dealt this year, but who knows?
And that's what I meant by, saying if Pearsall comes in and shows himself, because it will take time. I would expect Pearsall to get traded, or Ayuk to be traded closer to trade deadline, not before that event happens.
Sure. So I guess I think I'm gonna stay with the tight end since we're talking. Oh shoot, maybe not, since I just closed everything. Just joking.
The 61st time Matt has closed something he wanted to read.
It only happens here and there. These touch screens don't like my fingers, apparently. But anyway, I'm gonna stick with the tight ends. I'm gonna go with another aged tight end, and I'm gonna go Evan Engram. So another 30-year-old guy. Currently, right now, I have 135. I think the most updated ADP is 131. So very close to that anyway.
Ooh, rising
on up. But obviously last year, a bit of a down year. Finished as tight end 33 on the year. Only played in 9 games. That was just an odd sort of year for him.
Everything was off.
Yeah, and obviously that had to do with the offensive struggles in general that got that whole coaching staff cleared out, and obviously only playing 9 games. So Evan Engram, he leaves Jacksonville in free agency, clearly, and ends up in Denver where, obviously, Payton all offseason is talking about this joker that he wants and really needs for his offense to kind of click. So Payton describes this guy as like a hybrid type of guy, right? And that's kind of how I've always seen Evan Engram. I don't know about you guys. At 6'3", 240 pounds, he's kind of stuck somewhere between a tight end and a wide receiver. So, that combined with the fact that they really didn't get another player that, to me, fits that profile.
From what I heard, the only 2 players that they were really looking at for that role were Evan Engram and RJ Harvey. We'll see now that J.K. Dobbins is part of the equation, how that might mess with things. So I would think Evan Ingram's probably the leading candidate, but we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think RJ Harvey's is unknown, right? Mm-hmm. You've seen Evan Engram on the field, be this kind of mismatch guy. That I think is really what the Joker is all about, right? Causing mismatches all over the field and all that kind of stuff, and kind of getting defenses to hone in on this guy and spread things all around. And
Payton does a good job of that, of identifying like, okay, this is my guy early on. Where am I going to put him?
Right.
For the create that mismatch, which always translates to fantastic fantasy points.
Right.
A little FFP for you.
And you know, it's not like Evan Engram is all of a sudden this old guy that can't do anything, right? I mean, he's 1 year removed from being a guy that had 140 targets, was like third in the league in targets at the tight end position, second highest target percentage rate at 22.
He did back-to-back years too.
Yeah,
in Jacksonville last year and the year before that, he was in targets as well.
So the guy, it's not like he's washed up, but all of a sudden he's going way down this list of tight ends, and he's almost the forgotten guy. And I don't understand it personally, and that's why I want him on here as a buy for people to. Obviously, if you're a contender, this is the type of guy that could absolutely destroy his ADP right now. I mean, going in the 11th round somewhere, you could really hit a home run with a guy like this. And it would only, I looked on the trade finder, it was like a 25 second was most of the time what you'd get. I saw one that was a 25 second in Josh Palmer, which to me is a 25 second. So, I mean, like this is what you are having to pay for a guy like Evan Engram, who could potentially be a guy that lands in Denver and falls in this perfect situation. The only other guy getting, any sort of market share there is Cortland Sutton. He had 22 per 20
about Marvin Mims,
23.9. Everyone else there last year had between 11.9% and 9.1% of the targets. That's it. So no one there has got this huge market share that he's going to need to like kick down the door to leapfrog and come close. I don't think he's going to get to the 23% or whatever he was before. But he could.
He absolutely could. I would like to know, going off top of that, I wonder what Marvin Mims' target share was like the last 7 games of the year. Because remember when Sean Payton's like,
I could probably find it out.
Remember Sean Payton's like, oh, we really should have been using Marvin Mims earlier. But anyways, yeah, I mean, you're Evan Engram. I mentioned before the show, I forgot you were even doing Evan Engram. I was thinking about doing Pat Freiermuth or like Evan Engram. And I think Evan Engram is like, I go get Kittle. If I can't get Kittle, then I'm going after Engram. Same kind of concept, everything I said before about Kittle. I feel the same way about Engram because I was really close to selecting him as well. And you're right, that Joker role in the Sean Payton offense, we saw how he was able to use it at such a high level with a guy like Jimmy Graham as well, a big move tight end. So I think Evan Engram, like you said, who's already shown that he could be that number one weapon in an offense, right? A team that leads this team in targets and finds success gets me really excited. We talk about scheme and opportunity. We just said before in Kyle Shanahan, Sean Payton fits the bill as well for that Joker. It's why I was so excited about the RJ Harvey news for how often that Sean Payton targets his running back and gets him involved in his offensive weapons, the way he schemes with his motion. So,
and I feel like it's almost like an imbalance, right, in his offense without this position. That's why he's seeking it out and being so vocal. He doesn't even care. He's like, I just need this player. I'm going to go out and get this player. It was almost like a shout out to any of those guys that were in free agency, like, come see me. You know what I mean? Like, we can do good things
for sure. And you can't forget to mention as well. Then this somebody who's going to benefit. Who's going to help him benefit because he can't do well without his players. Bo Nix, the second year fully in now, integrated into Sean Payton's offense, and Sean Payton be a little bit more familiar with each other, is also going to equate to better news for whoever the number one target that may be. Like you said, could it be Cortland Sutton again? For sure. It could be a discount. Yeah. But if I had to bet my money, I'm with you. I would take Evan Engram as the person I'd rather put my money onto.
Just for what it's worth, you were asking about Marvin Mims. Not as high of a target share percentage as you would think. He was just hyper effective with his targets. Now, he did get some handoffs and things like that. But as far as targets go, he only had 1 game over 5 targets all season.
I stand corrected.
Which is weird. He had that 8-target game against Cincinnati. But going to Evan Engram, I'm with you. I really like Evan Engram. And I think he's one of the bigger gaps between dynasty and redraft guys right now, because redraft players are much more in on Evan Engram. Right now, he is the 7th tight end off the board in redraft. The only guys going ahead of him, Brock, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Sam Laporta, TJ Hockenson, and then just barely ahead of him is Travis Kelce. So I think redraft players are seeing like, no, this is going to be a good year. The only question is he's one of those guys that are over 30 now at this point. People start to, stay away from those guys. But we know at tight end that he could easily still have 3 to 5, 6 more seasons in him as a solid tight end.
Yeah, and you mentioned the name Travis Kelce. It's interesting to me that Travis Kelce is going ahead and redraft. But again, redraft people are way less probably tied in than dynasty players. And Travis Kelce is a big name. I mean, it is Taylor Swift's boyfriend, so everybody knows Travis.
And he got skinny, apparently. He lost like 20 pounds.
Apparently. Hey, if he's moving quicker, I'm fine with that.
So am I.
And that's a perfect player that I would be really interested in. Even I know as a 31-year-old tight end, you can get 3 years younger by trading Travis Kelce. If you still have somebody in your league who's like on that Kelce bandwagon, still want that name and kind of just take the name value over the production value, I would love to be able to flip Travis Kelce for Evan Engram or George Kittle.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I will break the trend. I will go with my quarterback first, although then it'll basically start a new trend because you guys will have to do quarterbacks. So either way, it's going to be a trend.
So you're going to tighten it up at the end?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it nice and tight at the end. I like having a tight end. So
only from behind.
I am going at the quarterback position. I am going with Mr. Dak Prescott as my quarterback buy. Dak Prescott, he's a player that has kind of always been I think an undervalued asset in fantasy football, partly because he doesn't run like he used to, and you either love the Cowboys or you hate them. Like there's not a lot of like mediocre feelings about the Cowboys for a lot of people.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's kind of like
themselves America's team. They haven't been. Have they even won a playoff game in the last 30 years?
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going by like dynasties, should Pittsburgh be America's team? Should the 1950 Browns be America's team? They should be.
They should be. Take that. So I think that might have something to do with it too. But we have seen Dak Prescott on multiple occasions be a top tier fantasy football asset, but we have not gotten him a lot of help recently until this year. All of a sudden now we have CeeDee Lamb, we have Ferguson back healthy again. We've got George Pickens. And it's been a long time since there's been a duo that was that talented in Dallas. In fact, the last time that they had two guys that were truly adequate top tier receivers as a 1 and as a 2 was when it was CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. So I went back and I looked, how did Dak Prescott do with Amari Cooper and with CeeDee Lamb?
And Zeke
at the time too.
And to be fair, Dak's offensive line in that period
was a much better offensive line.
Yep. Arguably the best in the NFL at the time.
I agree.
For sure. 2020 was a crazy season for him. That was the season that he got hurt week 5. But up until that point, he was averaging 27.7 points per game, which is just an absurd number.
What year was that?
That was 2020.
Because I remember that year you were talking Dak up before the year, like, hey, I think this is the same thing. I think like Dak's a great buy, he's gonna do good, and then he got all bummed, he got hurt. He's like, this is the best he's ever doing.
This was the year, and we kept talking like he's gonna throw for 7,000 yards. He's on pace for 7,000 yards
and 70 touchdowns.
Yes, we're like the greatest player ever.
That was like 5 years ago. That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy? It's been that long. And unfortunately, like even that 5th game was the game he got hurt, or that points per game would be even higher. So
I told him before the show. I just said to start it, like, I don't want to be redundant. So why now I'm talking to CJ Stroud? Here he is, 5 years later.
5 years later.
5 years later, coming right back.
Why,
like a dog to his vomit.
Why listen anymore?
Dog to his vomit. That really painted a picture.
Coming right back, baby. It's already been in there once. So Dak Prescott
still tastes all right.
But during that time, so obviously he was the number 1 overall quarterback in points per game that season by a good margin. We were like, that's such a small sample size. The next year, Amari Cooper, it was his last year with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott finished as the quarterback 7 that year. We've also seen him be a top 3 quarterback multiple times. And I get it. He's a little bit on the older side now. People are concerned about age, but
how old is he? Is he 30?
He's going to be 32 during the season.
Yeah. Okay.
He'll turn 32. So for me at the quarterback position, I mean, we are still ranking Matthew Stafford, who's going to be 38. Right. We're still ranking Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be 42. Like we're still ranking all of these players. Dak Prescott has plenty of years.
And at 31, he's only a year and a half older than Pat Mahomes. He's a year older than Jared Goff.
He's 2 years older than Tyler Shuck.
So that's the thing for me. And right now he's going as quarterback 21. So there's a lot of quarterbacks going ahead of him. And I get it. They're young. They're exciting. But if you are a contender, there is not a cheaper contender quarterback buy. Because look, you can go after Stafford and you can go after Rodgers. Those guys are fine and they'll be pretty cheap. But I don't think either one of them have the ceiling that Dak Prescott has this year. We've seen him be a top 3 guy multiple times. We've seen him have great success with good offensive weapons. I just think he's going to absolutely ball out this season.
I'm with you there. I do think this is kind of like the best situation he's had in years. They've been struggling there to try to find something. And you know, obviously they changed head coaches, but it's the same offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator went to head coach. So, there is continuity there. And I bet you there's probably going to be a little bit more flexibility in that relationship as well, as far as doing things that Dak likes and not maybe as rigid as it was under Mike McCarthy. So I think this is going to be a good situation for him to kind of thrive. So, that situation in Dallas is good. I don't want to sidetrack us too much, but I haven't been on a show in a few weeks, and since then, Aaron Rodgers has officially signed in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
How do you guys feel about that? You were mentioning him, that's why I want to bring him up.
I mean, for me, it's hard because obviously last year for Aaron Rodgers was not good. It was a bad season.
I thought he played pretty well from fantasy football's perspective.
But yeah, from a fantasy perspective,
for
it wasn't
value.
as bad
He was
as
startable.
I think we remember him being.
Yeah.
And part of it was like you kind of remember the last thing you saw, and those last couple weeks were rough.
Right.
But remember, he was also coming off an Achilles injury. Like, it's hard to say how much that was really affecting him. We saw the same thing for Kirk Cousins, where he just didn't look like himself. Could it just be that they were getting older? Sure. But my money is maybe it took a year for them to really get right again.
I think from what I've heard, Kirk Cousins has had other issues going on.
And that could be.
With his body, not just his Achilles. So there was some other stuff going on. So
sure. That very well.
That could be, I mean, that is father time type. You know what I mean? Like Nick's bruises, this is a slight tear. You know what I mean? You're playing through it. But I think Aaron Rodgers, he is what he is. We all know what he is. What I'm worried about with him is how are him, Coach Tomlin, and DK Metcalf going to come together? Because I think those are three very strong personalities that it could go.
I mean, Tomlin's made it work in the past.
I think that could go either way, is all I'm saying.
I think so. Tomlin's best at is managing these personalities. That's where he thrives. I mean, look at everybody that leaves, how they go crazy, and like how looking back, like how off script Antonio Brown was, how hard he was to deal with, and like how he made it work. Love Bell. Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the best coach in the NFL to handle a situation like that. And I think there's mutual respect there from Aaron Rodgers as well.
I hope that is how he sees it.
And I'm sure he wants to repair his image a little bit.
Does he?
They had a video.
He give a shit
that's fair.
about
Maybe he doesn't.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he cares about that at all.
I don't think he cares about that one bit.
In the least bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's what worries me. Like if he doesn't show Tomlin the respect that I think Tomlin has earned, how does Tomlin take that?
There's a video from last year or the year before, and it just showed like when we got hired, it's something they played on like ESPN of like when Rodgers was either on the Jets or it could have been the Packers. Like they're playing against Mike Tomlin, and Rodgers tipped his hat to him, and Tomlin tipped his hat back. So that's like if anything in an NFL game, like that's about as much showing the most respect you possibly can, like for an opponent's coach or during the middle of a game. So, and then again, I think Tomlin's such a good coach to handle the situation. I think it's actually going to be okay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers to get the ball downfield really fits out DK Metcalf.
Yeah, he fit that. I think schematically they fit together fine. Yeah,
I think the bigger question about Rodgers for me would be like not Rodgers himself. I think he can handle the offense. It'd be about the offensive line and who's his other weapon. Like I mentioned Pat Freiermuth as a possibility as a tight end buy, but like right now it's we look at Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson.
They're talking up Calvin Austin as the number 2 guy as far as the wide receiver coach and all that kind of stuff right now, and it's kind of his to lose, which I don't know how that works. You know what I mean? Like is he what's his name? What was the little slack guy for the Green Bay Packers?
Randall Cobb?
Yes, thank you, Randall. Is he a Randall Cobb type of guy? I don't know that he is. He's a little bit smaller.
That was really the only time that we have seen Rodgers with 2 receivers.
Right.
Because for the most part, he just kind of force feeds a main guy. Because all the other times, it was just one guy. So we'll see. When it was him and Jordy, they both performed pretty well. But it was short-lived for Cobb, and then it was Jordy for a while.
Yes.
So
I mean, Jordy was a top 3.
He was awesome.
Fantasy receiver.
He was awesome.
After Rodgers. So it doesn't get you excited about DK Metcalf. All right. Before I go into my second buy, I got to tell you about my friends at FastDraft. It's still summer. Last time I checked. I mean, I'm waiting for the consistent hot summer here in Ohio. We're getting I
think it's supposed to be nice this weekend.
I'm going to Cooperstown, New York tomorrow.
Oh.
And I don't think it's supposed to be that nice there, which is ridiculous. Which doesn't happen because it's like, anyways. What am I going to do? Well, I'm in Cooperstown, New York. My kid's in the dorm. We got an Airbnb with some other parents that play, which is going to be fun. We'll have some drinks. We'll entertain ourselves. We won't see our kids because my kid's on a little camp thing, whatever. But I will be doing.
I was going to say, I got an idea for you.
I'm going to be doing some fast drafts. Best ball drafts, man. I love in the summer to spend my free time like just drafting some teams, right? Keeping those players' names sharp, the value, judging value, getting surprised where people are taking players today, right? Because show me what live current value of how these people see it for 2025. Absolutely. Like, is there some value there for me in Dynasty to sell? So I do these best ball drafts. Probably do about one a week. Here and there in Cooperstown, I might do like one an hour. We'll see. We'll see what's going on down there in New York or up there in New York. So FastDraft does just that. They have a lot of contests out there right now, $5, $10 contests. You get in there and the drafts are super fast. You have an entire draft under 5 minutes. And right now, if you use the promo code NERDS, they'll match your deposit up to $50. So you throw $50 in there, they'll give you $50 on back. And on top of that, for supporting our partner, we are going to give you a free year of the Nerd Herd. That's the Dynasty GM app, the film room, the website, the extra podcast, everything we have in the Nerd Herd for doing that deposit and playing in a game. So check them out, FastDraft, or go to draftfaster.com and use the promo code NERDS.
Can't forget about FFPC as well. FFPC, if you are looking to join a new Dynasty League, there is not a better place, a safer place to put your money than in FFPC. They've never had a league fold. They have a bunch of different unique formats that you can play in. And best of all, they have some itty bitty leagues, some cheap, inexpensive leagues that you can join in, $35, or if you're a baller, you can go all the way up to $2,500 entry fees. And if you win that, you're taking home some major cash. So head on over there, myffpc.com. Use promo code NERDS. We'll give you $25 off your first team. That's promo code NERDS.
All right. So my buy is somebody who I've actually been talking about a lot lately, but I couldn't let this one slide and just pivot because I have to, because I want to go through all the details.
Okay.
And that's JJ McCarthy,
the
Minnesota Vikings.
Nice.
He's somebody who I've put so many offers out for. I think in 90% of my leagues up for the last couple of weeks, that's the number one player I've been targeting in Superflex leagues is JJ McCarthy. And I've only been able to get him in a couple of leagues. I just haven't been able to make it work. And I understand. So JJ McCarthy is the Vikings' former first round pick. He went number 10 overall and he sat last year because he got hurt in the preseason. So when you look back at him in his preseason, he had 63.5% completion percentage, 7.2 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. And he's somebody who's known to have a really strong arm. And the weapons he has are unbelievable, right? He has top 5 offense already in a Kevin O'Connell offense. They averaged 30.1 points per game last year, which puts him in the top 5. And you have the weapons out there that, this offense just really runs through. You got Justin Jefferson, 28% target share. Addison, 20%. TJ Hawkinson comes in. He'll be fully healthy after this year. And what I really like, because they already had a really good offensive line, 8th overall in pass block win rate. I saw that for, what was that, 2024. What I get really excited about that is they really beefed up the offensive line. Last year, they signed Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. Ryan Kelly, the center, and Fries, the guard from the Colts. And then they used their first-round pick on Donovan Jackson, 24th overall. So McCarthy's going to come in this offense that historically, under Kevin O'Connell, has always had a lot of success. Going back to his time with the Rams. Matt Stafford's best year ever under Kevin O'Connell. We saw him have Jared Goff put up some really good numbers out there as well. The rate he's had here in the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, if you go back to 2023, he had Kirk Cousins, Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall. He still led that to a 5th overall ranked passing offense. That's how good and efficient this offense is. And for me, that's it. Like we talk so many times about, like, it's not just the player's skill set. It's the weapons around him. It's the offensive coordinator. It's the head coach. Like,
it's the scheme.
Scheme means so much. And have a 22-year-old quarterback who we saw in college was an exceptional quarterback, right? Yep. His accuracy, his arm strength.
And dude just did it when it mattered.
He stepped it up, took his team to a national championship. I mean, obviously he knew the plays ahead of time, but listen, hey, do what you got to do, I guess, right? Not a problem. Right now, he is the QB 17, the 51st overall in corner ADP.
Let it go, Rich.
Never. Come on, Astros, calm down. So for me, in this offense, I get super excited. And what does Kevin Connell also like to do? He likes to run a lot of RPO, right? If you go back, you got to remember, McCarthy had 632 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns at Michigan. So this is somebody who can add that 400, 500 yards and a couple more touchdowns on the ground. And that's what really elevates a quarterback. You mentioned Dak Prescott doesn't run as well. What do we love so much about CJ Stroud? It's not like he's a bad quarterback. He doesn't rush very often. Right. So if you can add that upside already to a proven offense under Kevin O'Connell, for me, this pass heavy RPO infused is just like so ripe with the weapons he has with that new bolstered offensive line, 2 running backs in Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. Both can catch the football. Yep. I think J.J. McCarthy is in line to, I mentioned his ADP at what, 57th overall, 51st overall, QB 17. I have a feeling that J.J. McCarthy is going to enter that elite category where people are going to be thinking about him in the second overall round, not second overall, but second round of startup drafts. Yep. I mean, youth, Kevin O'Connell just got that contract extension. They're super excited about this kid. This is a kid they actually trade up for in that draft as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the epitome of what looks like an overpay today is an underpay tomorrow kind of trade. These are the ones that I get real excited about. And you try to find these guys every single year, identify those guys. Okay. Even though people like this player, he's not easy to get. I'm willing to pay face value, thinking it's going to be a bargain 12 months from now. And I really believe that J.J. McCarthy is going to be that player for the 2025 season.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good long-term buy. Obviously, this is the type of guy that we always talk about targeting as far as high draft pick. Didn't have any sort of rookie season, so there is a bit of a dip here before they actually get their, feet underneath them in the NFL, and we see real stuff on them. Sure. So I think that could very well be a huge boom, especially in tight end. Obviously Superflex tight end premium type of stuff. You could get him now for one price, and it could be double next year pretty easily.
And I think that's the most alluring part about him. Like in your drafts or even trading, you want players, and that's why older guys come cheaper. You want players that can gain value. Yep. You do it like you do stocks. You want assets that are going to continue to gain value. Older players tend to not, but sometimes that's why you can get them at so cheap and they can help you win a ship. But with these young guys, with his youth, with his offense, the sky is definitely the limit. So I'm really curious to see how all of this plays out this season. He's obviously got the receiving weapons. I don't even know that we've talked much about that with all of, the coach and all that. You also have the best wide receiver in football. You've got one of the better number 2 wide receivers in Jordan Addison. And you've got TJ Hawkinson, who's a very, very good tight end. So very legitimate receiving options. All these other teams are like, we just love for them to have a second. Well, he's got 3. Yep. So
and a good pass catching running back, at least one.
Yep. Absolutely.
So there is a lot there to like. And this could be one of those, CJ Stroud type of ADP jumps from his rookie season when he came in at one point, and then by the end of it, he was, quarterback 3.
Just hopefully he doesn't do what he did.
Right. Obviously. No, I'm just talking about the ADP jump there in his rookie season.
From his first year, yeah.
Because
great recent example.
Yeah, he doesn't, he obviously didn't have a rookie season. So this is essentially it for him.
So if he has the opportunity, man, to get to that leap, right? Like kind of to CJ Stroud leap to 3 overall. I mean, what a massive ADP jump. I mean, once you hit that category, that opens the door. Like, again, even there's an opportunity of buying a player, and you're even okay at that position, because what can it set up for the future, right? Either keep that player or you trade that player. But that's the kind of player that opens the doors to the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chase, the Bijan Robinsons, the Brock Bowers. Like when you have that asset you're able to move, then that's a massive win. And sometimes it's just you're making one trade just to make another trade to kind of set yourself up for success down the road.
Right. So moving on to my quarterback that doesn't seem as sexy and shiny as a JJ McCarthy, but I'm going to go a kind of a different approach, different tier of player here. And this is more of like a short term, you might be able to get him and have him for a year if you're a contender type of guy. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones, and it is based off the fact that, he is so cheap. Right now he's going in the 200 range. He's going off the board as quarterback 36 as far as ADP. And it's not that I expect Daniel Jones to do wonderful things, win this job, and be the long-term answer, right? I mean, who knows? He could. But at 28 years old, and obviously, if you look at the story, he's been with the Giants ever since he was a first-round draft pick. He spent 5 years there. Last year, he was benched basically after 10 games because he was just inefficient. He didn't look great. And then he got traded to Minnesota after week 10, I think. whenever that trade deadline was, I think week 10. So he got to sit behind Sam Darnold and was basically getting tutored by the guy that we were just talking about, Kevin O'Connell. And that's turned out pretty okay for some guys in the past. The guy is basically a QB guru, and this offseason he signs with Indy on a 1-year deal. And it's a prove-it deal. And the coaches there were talking, before they signed him, they were talking about bringing in real competition for Anthony Richardson because he needs it. And I think we all saw it
now.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously they bring him in, the guy, and now they're in camps and everything like that. Anthony Richardson has a surgically repaired shoulder that kind of starts flaring up, and there's injury issues there, and he has to go get a second opinion from the doctor that actually performed the surgery. It sounds like it's just inflammation. Everything should be fine. But if I'm a betting man here,
will it inflame again?
It will inflame. This will inflame again, and that's what I'm totally worried about. And for Jones to be going that late, I just think, first of all, he's a more accurate quarterback than Anthony Richardson. He is legitimate. He's legitimate competition for this guy. They signed him to a 1-year, $14 million deal. That's not like
that's not.
It's
nothing.
not. It's not nothing. It's not clear you're going to be the backup. It's not 1 year, $7 million. It's 1 year, $14 million. And if they can get away with that kind of cheap route here, and he pans out, maybe that turns into something else next season.
It's just a beat reporter, but I read a report literally yesterday or the day before from one of the beat reporters that said, obviously long ways to go, but at this point, Anthony Richardson would seemingly have to exceed what Jones has done by a significant amount to win this job because everything looks like it's going to be Daniel Jones. So just a random beat reporter. We haven't heard it from a coach, offensive coordinator, or anything like that. But it seems like it might not even be let's see by week 4, but like it could be legitimately week 1 without an injury.
So this coaching staff was brought in from Philadelphia who kind of fixed a quarterback that couldn't throw accurately enough, or
in Jalen Hurts.
In Jalen Hurts, right? Maybe not accurately enough, but consistently accurately enough.
Sure.
Right? I'm not sure that they've found the magic potion here with Anthony Richardson. Last year, off-target passes were a big-time issue. 47.7% completion percentage for Anthony Richardson last year. If that doesn't alone kind of speak to the doom and gloom of this situation, he was 71st in catchable throws. 71st.
I feel like you could take a random college quarterback, give him 3 weeks, and say, like, can you complete more than 50%? And most of them probably could.
Yeah. So, it's just hard to kind of figure out how it's going to work out for Anthony Richardson. And they went and drafted. I know the guy from Notre Dame is a project, but he's another one of these guys
that has not accurate.
He has accuracy issues, but he's an athletic guy. So they have a typecast that they want. And I think if they can develop that guy in the background and kind of shunt Anthony Richardson kind of to the side at this point, I do believe this is going to be Daniel Jones's kind of situation going forward, at least for this year, this short-term period. So I don't want you to go spend a bunch and pay a high price, but you don't have to for Daniel Jones. I went in our trade calculator. He went for a 4th and a 5th, a 2025 4th and a 5th. There was another one that was Daniel Jones, a 2026 2nd, a 25 4th for a 25 2nd and 3rd. Go figure it out. It's basically nothing. if you look at it, and it's basically nothing. You're like flipping a 4th and flipping seconds and years, and you get Daniel Jones magically somehow. So it's like you can get this guy for absolutely nothing.
And I'd be willing to pay a late 2nd for him right now.
But I don't think you'd have to.
I don't think you have to, but I'm just saying I'd be willing to.
I offered Matt a 3rd for him a week and a half ago, and he declined it.
Of course I did.
Send a 2nd back.
Because you'd pay a late 2nd too, wouldn't you?
I would pay way more than the 2028 3rd that this dude was trying to get from me for Daniel. 2028. Like,
in 3 years, dude, you have an 8% chance of hitting.
We're just about Dak Prescott 5 years ago. Look how quick that 3rd round pick's gonna be long gone.
No, so he put a message up and said, He said, "Who is it? Golden. Golden is available for QB." And and then Matthew Golden. And so then he sends me a 2023 for Daniel Jones, and I send him back with Matthew Golden. I'm like, I'll take Matthew.
That deal didn't quite.
No, it was an FU from him and an FU back from me.
No, listen. When you picked him as a buy, you're right. Sometimes like we talk about like simple trades that you can make this all. Like, how do I get better in the summer? Right. And it's easy for us to sit here and talk about big time players and big time trades. And that's what everybody wants to talk about. And I've said over the years, a lot of times it's the small trades that you make that can lead to championships. And it's a move like this with Daniel Jones that I think really fits that perfectly. Because remember, even if he's quarterback 22, he's still like a top 70 overall fantasy football scorer. That's an asset, right? That's a championship caliber asset.
It's cheap depth, man.
And I knew the moment that Anthony Richardson took himself out of the game last year for a breather, he wasn't going to be the starter in 2025.
I had that stuff on here, and I didn't even need to talk about it. Like, it was just that.
And he goes there. You mentioned the money, right? Daniel Jones wanted to make sure he took a job where he had an opportunity to start, and that's why he went there. Yep. And he had to offer him more money so he would go there. Anthony Richardson's already hurt, and going off what Matt said as well is we know that they are looking for a type with Anthony Richardson, Notre Dame. People can't forget Daniel Jones is a very athletic tight end who likes to rush the football, and he's efficient in doing so. So in Steichen's offense, where they don't have
label Daniel Jones as a tight end.
Maybe.
Is he the new Leonard Fournette?
Yes.
We brought him up earlier today.
Yeah. New DJ. He moved so well. In this offense,
he probably could convert to tight end.
He could.
Yeah.
He's got some wheels.
If he didn't trip over
they draft Tyler Warren, a guy they could utilize as kind of a joker, real close to the line of scrimmage. They got Josh Downs, a nice early savvy receiver. And of course, you got Adonai Mitchell, who could take the top off, and Michael Pittman Jr., a big receiver there. Jonathan Taylor. There's a lot of opportunity here for Daniel Jones.
This might be his best wide receiver group or pass catching group that he's had.
Total group, yeah. Obviously Malik,
the
best.
Best coaching,
he'll
ever have too, to say the least. So for me, I think a small move like that, like say you are a contender and you have two quarterbacks, and I don't know who the second one is, but like you like them, you don't love them. Maybe like a Sam Darnold.
Let's say it's Tua, and you're worried that he's injured all the time.
Tua, somebody you like, but just in case, or you just only have two. Just to back yourself up. If it cost you a late second on a player that could be so efficient, it also gives you a position where like, hey man, somebody else's quarterback goes down. Daniel Jones somehow ends up as quarterback at like 14, 15. You flip him for a first. Like it's still up value, or you can start him.
And we've seen this recently. Like, wouldn't you have loved to have been a year early on Sam Darnold from last year? Or 2 years ago, be a year early on Baker Mayfield? Or 3 years ago, a year early on Geno Smith? Like, we've seen a lot of reclamation projects lately simply because there's such a big need for quarterback in this league. And a lot of these guys, having taken their lumps early on in their career, say, with the right offense, the right system, this guy still can be effective. I think Daniel Jones, while he's not a great quarterback, I don't think he is a bad quarterback. And I think he's good enough to be a starter in the NFL. And so if he gets the opportunity with decent weapons and a decent offensive mind, this could spell success. And even if he just jumps from quarterback right now 36 to quarterback 26, which is where Sam Darnold is right now, that's a huge value jump, because right now, at least for me, if somebody wanted Sam Darnold from me, I would want their late first to give up Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
If you can turn a guy that's going for thirds and fourths into a guy that you could potentially get a late first for, that is such a huge jump in value.
No doubt, man.
Yeah, I like it.
All
right, last one here.
Back to the ends.
Back to the tight ends. And I kind of did
I like it this way, all mixed up. You don't know which way all
well, I guess we
whittle it down.
So I did kind of a similar thing to Daniel Jones here. We talked about some higher price guys, some higher name guys. I went with a little bit of a lower tier guy. And this is a player that was a top 12 tight end last year. We've seen him be a tight end one multiple times over the course of his career. But right now, he's going off the board as tight end 30. And I think it's a little ridiculous. Can you guys guess who it is without looking?
Freiermuth?
Nope.
Zach Ertz.
Not Zach Ertz.
Juwan Johnson.
Nope.
Jonnu Smith.
Hunter Henry.
Oh,
Hunter Henry. So
he was 12th last year?
He was 12th last year.
Wow.
despite missing 2 games even.
I have him in a lot of leagues, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was 12th last year.
I have a decent amount of Hunter Henry shares myself.
So here's the thing. Hunter Henry is one of those players that is not sexy whatsoever.
That's probably why I didn't. That's probably why I forgot all. That's why I forgot all about that tight end.
Yeah, nobody's ever excited to have him. Nobody ever. But
call him.
There have been plenty of times over the course of my career where I'm like, crap, my starter got hurt. Oh, I can plug in Hunter Henry. I'll be fine. And he does, and he performs well and gets me what I need. But here's the thing.
Well, he gets you 9.8 points or something.
Exactly. Which is all you need at tight end. If you don't have a top 3 guy, that's all you need. Get me 9 to 10 points. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I've lost by less than 9 points many times.
Yes.
Many times.
So with a guy like Hunter Henry, he's not going to be overly exciting. He's not going to be somebody it's not going to be a big move, but he's somebody you can throw on for free. But we've talked a lot about the improvements that this team has made this past offseason. They added an offensive lineman. They added a nice running back, and then they added a wide receiver as well. But last year, the number 1 target on this offense, it was Hunter Henry. And it wouldn't shock me if Hunter Henry, now that there's actual other players to look at and follow and shadow and things like that, he could be open over the middle constantly. I could truly see that being, and it could be one of those random Gary Barnidge years where he's like, oh, he's tight end 6 this year. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
He's still a very talented player. He's 30 years old, so he's getting up there in years, but still has plenty of years left in him. And he's the ideal tight end 2 that I want to have on my team if I'm nervous. Well, period. He's just the ideal tight end 2, but especially if I have any nervousness at all about my tight end 1, because he's going to fall into that tight end 9 to 14 range more than likely, but he costs you nothing.
Yep.
All those other guys, you're going to have to pay for Jake Ferguson. You're going to have to pay for David Njoku. You're going to have to pay for all those guys. This guy is almost free at tight end 30, and I think he's just a really good value. One of those small moves that's just going to be a blip on the radar. But if something happens, you're going to be so excited that you get to start him, and you're not stuck starting, Jatavian Sanders, or you're not stuck starting Theo Johnson or somebody like that.
You know what I wish for Hunter Henry?
What's that?
I wish that he just never left
the Chargers.
I wish
stayed there with Justin Herbert.
Stayed there with Justin Herbert.
Because I think he left the year Justin Herbert came there, right?
They were there together for a year.
Were they there together for his rookie year? Maybe
at least 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah,
it might have been his rookie year.
Yeah. But I think that could have been a thing that blossomed because
it really could have.
There was nothing else there. You know what I mean? He kind of left, and then Mike Williams was there, and Keenan was there, and then they both left. Last year could have been this magic moment.
It really could have,
and instead we're talking about him being this obscure guy that everyone forgets about.
But it was also tight end 12.
No, I know.
My favorite thing was Garrett's yeah, he is old. He is 30, youngest tight end we talked about.
He is, isn't he?
I mean,
we're talking buys.
Yeah, we're talking buys, and they're all kind of old, but that's okay.
All right, well, that's our quarterback and tight end buys for the summer of 2025. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be back with our sells of quarterbacks and tight ends. Will it be old? Well, one way to find out. Tune in. If you enjoy the show, leave that rating and review that review. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Adios.